to hang with us this morning. Let's talk Super Bowl. Richard Sherman, he's headed to Miami, but that doesn't mean he was safe from criticism from another member of the cornerback frat on Sunday. Darrelle Revis took to Twitter after Sherman got beat for 65 yards by Davante Adams. Fear of getting beat in man-to-man coverage every snap, every play. The fact that he doesn't travel as a cornerback is lame. Accept this challenge, the challenge as the best, and shut Adams down the entire game. Do it for the game of football. Stop hiding a cover 3 zone. That prompted Richard Sherman to respond with, I would go in on this. Let's see, but I have a Super Bowl to prepare for. Enjoy the view from the couch. Your 9th year looked a lot different than this. LNA.
We're going this has-been, is what he said. Called him a has-been.
Yeah, he went that route. Yeah. That's the translation of that.
That's what he said.
He's two of the best to ever do it at corner, going one-on-one, man-on-man coverage on Twitter. Revis is retired. Sherman still going strong, and he is going to Super Bowl. Who do you think has had the better career?
Go ahead, Nate, get in. You're smiling like the Cheshire Cat. Come on.
This is tough because I faced both of them.
Okay.
Darrelle Revis, he is one of the smartest cornerbacks in the business. Great patience, high intellect for the game. You never had too many times where you beat him and you were 2 to 3 yards away from him. You didn't get that separation because by the formation and how he stayed on top of you, he was one of the illest to do it. And then Richard Sherman on the flip side, those long arms, very aggressive. In a day and age where they would let you be a little bit more aggressive at the line of scrimmage, he would risk getting a PI on you just so he can show you that I'm more physical than you at the line of scrimmage. Also very smart. If you're asking me who had a better career, I might have to go with Richard Sherman because at year 9, what he's doing right now, and you look at him coming off of those injuries and negotiating his own deal, I'm going to go with Richard, and I might be just a tad bit biased because he played for my Seattle Seahawks and he helped bring something home to Seattle that I couldn't do when I played there.
Well, who did your team not like going up against more, Revis or Sherman?
Both. We have to know where those guys were at all times. The thing about Revis, though, and I can't say this with all due respect to Richard Sherman, Revis would travel. He would go left to right if I was in a slot. There was games where I was cooking. I was coming in and I had a big game the previous 2 weeks, and all of a sudden I'm lining up in a slot. I look up thinking I'm going to face some nickelback that I'm going to torch all game, and it's Darrelle Revis. I'm like, okay, you want this work? You want this work? I'm going to have to give you this work.
Well, that's what the coach would do, right? I mean, Robert Saleh doesn't have Richard Sherman do that. This, to me, is very unsavory. Richard Sherman is just about to pin the Packers and move to the Super Bowl, and then Revis runs in with a steel chair and a megaphone and hits him on the head. Like, if I didn't know better, it's so gratuitous, I would think it was part of a work for, like, an endorsement they had to get. Really? It was that much. And I also think, you know, the corners do have a fraternity, and they usually are very accepting of each other. Like, Dion is the godfather of that, and he comes on the show and refuses to name the best corner in the league because he supports them all. Revis comes off as very spiteful and maybe very insecure that a lot of people are calling Sherman the best corner in the generation. I was shocked by this, and I don't like it, and I would pick Sherman's career over Revis's because he's going to his 3rd Super Bowl, and he's the face of one of the greatest defenses of all time. Revis is the face of the Rex Ryan Jets, and he carried on with the Patriots. I would go Sherman. I can't believe he did that.
My tongue is almost tied because I covered Revis as a player extensively.
Great player.
He was in New York and in Jersey and was not a talker. Like, this is very uncharacteristic of Darrelle Revis to come out unprompted.
Totally.
And basically say, but look at Sherman. Like, Revis is saying, hey, my 9th year is actually still very, very good.
He said 5 interceptions, 4 fumbles, and then Richard Sherman said, well, I'm getting my hands on balls in the playoffs, something you don't know nothing about.
I mean, crazy. And I think, we have a memory of Darrelle Revis as a Kansas City Chief or something like that, or a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Make no mistake, when Darrelle Revis was at his peak,
amazing.
There might have been no better cover corner in all of football, let alone this generation. Maybe ever the way he would cover dudes. He would eliminate an entire side of the field. Basically, they would say, Revis, you cover the best corner. He's going to have 0 catches for 0 yards today, and we'll do the rest. But Sherman's having a career resurgence right now. That's hard to hate on Sherman at all.
Because Revis did travel, like you're saying, like you did, we all saw as fans of his game. Do you think there is like an art, an integrity of the game that he's actually really triggered by when he doesn't see Sherman act that same way? Is there actually something real here and not petty that actually could be bothering Revis?
Well, Sherman can only play in the system that their coaches allow.
So I think I like this. So it's like, in the Hall of Fame in baseball, a lot of people roll their eyes at the designated hitter. Like, it's not the same thing. Or in basketball, he's great, but does he play defense? Like, is that kind of the feeling here where there's an asterisk because he doesn't travel?
Not at all. You listen to Patrick Peterson, and Patrick Peterson is more on the side of Darrelle Revis because he's like, you know what? I travel. I'll play any of your best players, all the way from tight end to running back, wide receiver, tall, short, fast, slow. I'll guard them all. So Patrick Peterson, Darrelle Revis, they look at the game a little bit differently. Richard Sherman, he anchors one side of the field, and you know what? He shuts down one side of the field, even at this age. So I get it. And here's the thing. It's not a big deal because that'd be like me coming in as a wide receiver. The one thing I was always complimented on, I could run every route in the book.
Okay.
I was versatile. They said Nate Burleson could do a lot of things very well. There's a ton of guys who made a career and a ton of money off of running a couple of routes. I don't come in and start barking or hit Twitter when I see a young wide receiver with speed run a post route and he runs nothing but post routes. I compliment him because he excels at running that post route and 9 route. I'm not going to sit back and say, well, he can't run the slant route like me. He can't run the comeback. You know what? My post corner was really good. I haven't seen him run one post corner. I kind of just lay out because certain guys do certain things well. This is a specialized business. And now teams are making up their squads like that. This isn't back in the day where every guy has to be versatile. No, get a guy that's meant to do a specific thing for your defense.
Beefing? What do you think of in the middle of the playoffs? They're barking at each other.
I'm
on
glad
Twitter.
you asked me. I think that's lame.
Okay.
Just calling it what it is.
Why?
2 black men with a lot of money sitting there going back and forth over Twitter, and you guys are the best of your generation. Like, why display that pettiness on such a big stage? Why can't you just sit back, Darrelle Revis? You can be complimentary and critical at the same time. Why not say, hey, man, keep doing your thing. Congrats on what you're doing so far. Good luck in the Super Bowl, but you still couldn't guard a receiver like me. LOL. We all would have laughed. We would be like, ooh, that's a shot, but I dig it. But as far as sitting at home, like Revis said, sitting on my couch, I love my couch. Revis, you know I got the utmost respect for you. And I'll say this to any player that wants to take this phone and cause drama for no reason. Leave that alone, man. You got enough people taking shots at us. Why do it to somebody that was in the fraternity with you?
But you're not mad that Richard Sherman responded?
Nah, man, Richard Sherman's always going to respond, and that's what he should have said.
I mean, they might just be working on an Old Spice commercial together. Like
Kate,
I hope so.
Can I call my shot? Is a Super Bowl commercial between the two of them? This is so gratuitous. I feel like it's a work. I know a work when I see one. I think it's a work.
That'd be great.
Look, Dez and Josh Norman, they were all in commercials together, and Odell. I think this is a work. Watch.
Oh, I can't wait to see it play out.
Dirty Dancing is going to hold them up.
Yeah. Juju and Antonio Brown are doing a ton of ads together.
Will Selva's out in the newsroom in Culver City. Hey, Will.
Thank you, Kate. I love the fact that Sherman pointed out it's accept, ACCEPT. It's not to give you a lesson
That's
while I was here.
Brutal.
Yes, very much savage out of Sherman. All right, well, the 49ers backfield is flush with depth between Raheem Mostert, Matt Breida, and Devin Coleman. As proof, when Coleman went down with the shoulder injury, all Mostert did was, run for over 200 yards with 4 touchdowns. And whether all 3 will be healthy remains to be seen. Coleman suffering a dislocated shoulder. Head coach Kyle Shanahan noting that this type of injury usually takes a week of rest, meaning there's a chance he could play in the Super Bowl. Shanahan says they'll find out more from the MRI. The Shan man making a movie reference when talking about the injury, calling it more of a lethal weapon type thing where you gotta pop it back in. Well done by Shanahan. Most football players, speaking of, need to summon inspiration from somewhere, and Chiefs defensive stud Frank Clark is no different. Clark got it from hearing some people say the Chiefs gave up too much for him. A first-round, second-round pick to Seattle. All he's done is record 4 sacks in 2 postseason games. Clark fired up, saying, quote, "You've seen all the bad things they were saying about Frank Clark. One thing they didn't know is how long the season was." Well, Kyle Shanahan has the 49ers back in the Super Bowl for the first time since 2012. But as we all know, Shanny was there as the Falcons offensive coordinator against the Patriots, the whole 28-3 thing. That's why Shanahan wasn't about to relax when his team had the Packers on the ropes.
The learning moments are never feel good. I mean, that's why I promise you when we're way up in the fourth quarter on Green Bay and stuff, I mean, I know what 28 minus 3 is, and I know 25-point lead in the fourth quarter isn't enough. So when we only have a 14-point lead with 8 minutes to go versus Green Bay, I can promise you that I think I feel from experience like the game is tied and that we don't have a 2-score lead. And I think that's the stuff that helps you, because sometimes I think people can tend to relax, and that's something I won't say that I ever relaxed in that Super Bowl, especially with Tom Brady having that ball. But that's something that keeps you humble at every single moment until the game's over.
And Shanahan asked a lot about that Super Bowl meltdown and didn't shy away from the questions. It's something I'm sure he'll be asked about a lot over the next 2 weeks. But he says he approaches this thing like it was a tie and is not shying away from any of these questions. And I love the candor because he's being honest about the whole thing. Okay.
And I joked about it earlier, but I love that he was also asked about the backpack, arguably his biggest mistake made in